Hello and welcome to The Insider, a show designed to clue you into the biggest news, events and announcements inside the video games industry, discussing with you some things you may know, some things you may not, and the glue that holds it all together is a little bit of my own opinion. My name is Paul James, thank you very much for watching, and let's get off with our episode. It's time to talk all about my bread and butter, PlayStation. They've been really forthcoming with some information leading into E3 2018, and it's prompted a lot of questions, concerns, discussions all over the internet about what they have in store for this E3 2018 press conference, or whatever it ends up being. We're going to dissect all of that in this episode of The Insider.
So I'll ask you once again, Samurai. Do you surrender?
So let's get the obvious ones out of the bag. Let's talk about the sure things. And PlayStation owned up to 4 games that are already going to be there. They were very forthcoming with information via the PlayStation blog and the blogcast, and spoke about how The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, and Spider-Man are all going to be there. They are therefore tentpoles, and they're going to make up an important part of whatever it is that PlayStation does at E3 2018. But on top of that, there's a few other things you should expect as well. That includes Dreams, a game that has been in gestation for quite some time, but media folks got their hands on it a few months ago at a press event and loved what they saw. And that's awesome, given that there was a lot of negativity, a lot of skepticism around this game for a while there, and PlayStation needs to strike while the iron's hot, show the masses why this game is such an interesting, engaging prospect, and then give us a release date, because we've been waiting on this thing for far too long. VR is also going to be a major part of what they're doing as well, and there's 2 big hitters for that platform that they need to talk about. One of them is Blood and Truth, developed by Sony London, and it's kind of a follow-up to The Heist, which was a part of the PlayStation VR Worlds sort of experience, that demo experience that they that they released with the VR a couple of years ago. And the other one, Firewall Zero Hour, which was announced at PSX last year, and apparently, from those who got hands on it, it's a really cool kind of multiplayer experience in VR. I don't really know too much about the game yet, but with the positivity that follows that game, I think it's something that PlayStation needs to double down on and really get in our faces and show us why we want it. So please, make sure to do so, guys.
I'm gonna find, and I'm gonna kill every last one of them.
So next, let's talk about those 50-50 prospects. And despite the fact that there is so many things that PlayStation has been transparent about, there's several others that we just don't know 100% about their presence at E3 2018 this year. No, let's try that again. So let's move on to some of those 50-50 prospects, the games we're not sure about. And there's a few that we need to discuss, because despite as transparent as PlayStation's been, there's a few others they didn't speak of and have been exposed to us in different ways, and I think we need to see a bit more about them, but there's reason to suggest that we may not. The first of those is Days Gone. Days Gone is looking awesome. It was debuted at E3 a few years ago and looked great. There was another demo that came out a year after, it looked great. But it's living in the shadow of The Last of Us Part 2, as evidenced by the fact that The Last of Us Part 2 is one of the marquee games there, and Days Gone, which is likely coming out beforehand, isn't. But they gave the game a massive bout of exposure recently, courtesy of the Game Informer cover piece for their month, and we saw, must be about an hour and 45 minutes worth of gameplay. Not all of it was critical path sort of stuff, but we saw a lot about the world and the way systems and the way the game's going to play, all in a pre-alpha sort of state. But it's really interesting what they're doing with the game, and I want to see more about it. Please bring it to E3 2018. Next up, I want to talk about Concrete Genie, a game that was announced last year. It's from the team responsible for Entwined, which was one of those, and you can buy it now, games at E3 a few years ago, but it's looking far better than Entwined ever was. This thing has more systems, more mechanics, more style, more personality, and I'm really, really keen to see what that studio does. You should go and check it out if you haven't already. Next up is Medieval, a game that was announced at PSX last year. It's kind of a remake, I believe, of the original Medieval from way back when. Sir Daniel Fortescue is coming back. And look, PlayStation's trying to jump a bit of hype for this thing. They should make sure to take some time and show us exactly what that looks like. Next up, we need to talk about Shadows Die Twice, or what many hope and believe to be Bloodborne 2. The game was teased, announced formally, I guess, at at PSX, the Game Awards 2017, and people are really hyped for this game. We just don't know what it is yet. We don't even know if it's a PlayStation exclusive, but there's reason to think from some that it is a Bloodborne successor, and in that case it is a PlayStation exclusive, and in that case it should be at E3 2018. Finally, there's going to be a big indie presence. PlayStation suggested that in their blog post and in the blogcast, and I think they need to do more of that, because the last few years it's been big hitter, trailer, third party. They've kind of forgotten the things that got them into the place they're in the first place, and that was support for indies, lots of support for indies, and then use the first parties to kind of supplement and support that. But at the moment, it's the big hitters, they're rolling them out, and that's fine. PlayStation's got plenty of awesome studios working on big games, such as God of War, the recently released God of War, and the indies have fallen by the wayside. They need to work at striking that balance, and I don't want to see it all relegated to the pre-show.
We'll make it. Me and you.
PlayStation's an interesting company, and they could really throw anything at us at any time. But I think there is one thing that you can count on not appearing in any way, shape or form, and that is Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. That game is incredible. It is one of the best games of 2017, and was supported really well by Guerrilla Games through the course of the year. They are clearly working on a successor to that game. But with all the big hitters that PlayStation has got going for them already, there's no reason for them to show their hand this early. Save it for next year, save it for PSX, save it for some other time. They don't need to use it this year. There's a few other games that you could possibly throw in that same category. PlayStation has a lot of IP. There's probably no real reason to address a lot of those things because we've spoken about the majority of the big ones. Probably no Uncharted, probably no presence of God of War, and outside of maybe kind of celebrating the success that it achieved. There's a few big hitters that won't be there for some obvious reasons. But outside of that, there's nothing really that's off the table. So we just got to wait and see what PlayStation does.
The stories don't tell where the old ones went. They don't tell us why the machines rule these lands. But they warn us that this balance cannot last. The storm is coming. And I will be ready.
So that wraps up my predictions for PlayStation at E3 2018. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you saw some value in those. I hope there's something that you agree with, something that you disagree with. If you've got thoughts, sound off below. I'm really keen to see what you're thinking as we get closer to the event. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. All those buttons are down below here too. And make sure you hit that notification bell. That alerts you to new episodes of Patched, The Insider, The Video Games Club, Player 2 Plays, The Late Game Review, and much more. There's some awesome content there, so please make sure to go and check it out. For written content, make sure to visit the website player2.net.au, where you'll find reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, the Player 2 Writers Draft, our E3 Hub, and much more. We're on Patreon as well. Please make sure to visit patreon.com/player2au. Consider kicking in a few dollars. At the lower tiers, you can get early access to episodes such as The Insider, such as Patched, such as Player 2 Plays. And at the higher tiers, you can get exclusive episodes of those shows. And at the very top tier, you can join us in the monthly Player 2 podcast. There's some enticing offers there. Consider kicking in a few bucks. You're helping the Player 2 dream grow, and we really appreciate it in advance. For rolling updates, you can find me at PaulJamesP2 on Twitter. The website you can find at Player2AU on Twitter. Those were my E3 predictions for PlayStation. I hope you enjoyed them, and until next time, I'll see you later.